This is Truth Be Told.
That not only are there reptilians here,
new evidence of UFO fleets.
We were close to nuclear war.
To help you transform so that you can live your highest truth.
We're not being told just because we're not ready for it.
Radio stations of frequency, vibrational.
I was a homicide detective with LAPD.
UFOs increase. Visitations. Can a ghost investigator become the hunted? Well, welcome to another episode of Truth Be Told, where we explore the mysterious and the unexplained. We have a chilling and gripping episode in store for you today. Today on the show, we have Daryl Marston, a co-lead investigator on A&E's Ghost Hunters, here to share his harrowing experience inside the infamous House of Wills. This former funeral home in Cleveland, Ohio, is known for its intense paranormal activity, and Daryl's encounter with a dark spirit is nothing short of terrifying. We're going to talk with Daryl about his recounts of the 13-hour investigation that left him forever changed. From lost time and phantom footsteps to dark spirits invading his mind, Daryl's story is one of profound personal transformation and haunting experiences. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. We dive into the night that brought Daryl to his knees and left him with a haunting that followed him home. So please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios for the first time, paranormal investigator and author, Daryl Marston. There he is.
I love the applause.
Well, I hope I didn't make it sound like you went home and cried a little bit, but well, I'm excited to have you here, and I've been watching Ghost Hunters, and of course, many other these amazing ghost TV shows for years and years, right. And it's nice to have you on the show and to highlight you and the book that you put together. So before we really dive into it, I kind of like to go back just a little bit because I always feel like everybody that's kind of in this industry that has their own story. You know, people like, I'm a UFO researcher. Well, there's probably they encountered something. They were abducted. They were, family saw UFO, or, I'm a ghost hunter. I've experienced ghost spirits or whatever. So can you tell us your story? What really got you interested in the paranormal field?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I actually grew up in a haunted house when I was a child.
There it is.
I don't remember. I don't remember it, though.
You don't remember it?
Yeah, I was 6 when we moved out. I remember the stories my parents and my grandparents would tell me, but I remember none of it. I had my first real paranormal experience that I can actually remember in 2005. That's what got me into this. And it's actually in my book. I wrote about it. I actually got invited to Fort Delaware, which is a Civil War prison here in Delaware, it's an island. I was just there last weekend, matter of fact, doing an overnight. And I went out there not knowing what to expect. It was around Halloween. It was like a 3-hour tour. It wasn't even really like a ghost hunting type thing. And I witnessed a apparition while I was at the fort. And it stuck with me in some way, somehow. I wanted to kind of recreate that, and I started investigating. I knew nothing about investigating. And matter of fact, ghost hunting was kind of taboo back then.
Yeah, for sure.
In 2005, the shows were just starting to come out, but I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't even know what a paranormal investigator was, but I knew some way, somehow I wanted to kind of figure out what I saw and make sure I wasn't crazy and try to recreate it. And that's just how my mind works. And I didn't really talk about that until just the last 4 or 5 years that actually happened to me. And that's when I put it in the book and everything. But I saw this man, and I only saw him from the chest up. Like he was half body apparition, what we called him. And I remember, like it happened 5 minutes ago. He, very disheveled looking guy, a very big beard with debris. And I remember the debris, like dirt and stuff in his beard. And he was only maybe there for 10 seconds, and he kind of sucked into a ball and vanished right in front of my eyes. And that's what led me into investigating. It just grew over the years. And then I started getting into podcasting and things like that about 10 years ago. I had my own show the American Ghost Hunter show for 4 or 5 years, and that's where Ghost Hunters actually found me and brought me on board as co-lead investigator, and then led me to where I'm at now. I have my new show, My Haunted Manor USA, which I've been filming for about 6 months now, and it's been a crazy ride. And in between all that's when the House of Wills happened around 2015, 2014.
Well, let me ask you on the House of Wills, because you by this time you are already a seasoned investigator when you went into the House of Wills. But what was Greg's pitch or description interested you without knowing about the site? What was, because I'm sure you get a lot of pitches around this country.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been doing it for, at that time, around 9 or 10 years, and I thought I've seen everything. I hate doing that quote thing, but I thought I saw it all. I thought I was a seasoned investigator and then the stories he was telling me. I mean, we were in the middle of an investigation in Gettysburg, and it's when he approached me about it, and he kept saying, "You got to come out and check this place out in Cleveland. You got to see it." And the stories he was saying were just so outlandish. Like, I was like, "There's no way. This is something out of a movie." And I didn't know the whole backstory of it at the time, but then got out there about a month later, and it was everything he said plus more.
Wow.
And then when I got back after all this stuff started happening to me, is when I started delving into the backstory of the location, the history of it, and then where it was during today, matter of fact. And that's when I found out about Eric Freeman, who he is. And him bringing his belief system into the building and practicing it there.
Wow.
And I think that's what really set it off over the last 10 years. And matter of fact, I was just with Eric Freeman back in October. I was in Cleveland for a book signing, and he showed up at my book signing. It's the first time I ever met him. I mean, I've talked to him on the phone. I had to get his permission to write the book because his name was in it, in the House of Wills. And that's the first time I ever met him in person. And it was surreal because I've talked about this guy for years, and actually getting to meet Eric and who he was and what I wrote about him. And he's and I even say it in the book before I even really physically met him. He's not a bad guy, even though his belief system is completely different than 99.9% of the people in the world. He's not a bad person. It's just what he believes in, and which is he's a Satanist, is to put it in layman's terms. And it was being with him in Cleveland where it all happened it was pretty wild, and great guy, really was. And we've come somewhat friends since then. There's the man right there.
I mean, that picture would make you kind of like, oh.
yeah. He's a very formidable person. Even when you meet him in person, he's like, okay. And I've met a lot of people, and he's got an aura about him, man. It's pretty wild. But I can't say enough great things about him. I could never talk bad about the man. He's a great guy, but he has a different belief system than we do. He's a Satanist. He actually, he trained under Anton LaVey. Right. And if anybody knows who Anton LaVey is, he's actually was in business with his grandson, Zach LaVey, for many years. So there's a long history there of the whole, the satanic movement, dating all the way back to the 60s and 50s. So it's pretty wild to meet somebody who was part of all that and kind of was trained by all that. It's a little surreal, to be honest with you.
So going into these, different sites, I mean, I'm sure you have kind of a protocol or doing background work or going in with some type of protection. I work with a lot of psychics, and they say, you protect yourself when you're around spirits. What was so different about this location that and what preparation did you do, or didn't do any? Did you just go in kind of like, I want to just, it's kind of like having a conversation beforehand. It's like, I want to save it for the air.
Yeah, I went in, and this is what I tell people about that location. I'm glad it happened to me. In hindsight, I look back,
right?
Because I feel like I was very immature as an investigator back then. And it humbled me, and not just as an investigator, but as a human being, to have something dark like that be in the presence of it.
Right.
Real evil is what I'll call it. I don't use the D word, the demon word. I don't know. I don't think I've ever ran into what they actually consider a demon, but whatever is there is very dark energy that I can't explain, and no one who ever's been in that building can explain. Even Eric won't let people in the building anymore because of it.
Really?
Yeah, because he's worried about people getting hurt and stuff. So it's I didn't go in with anything, man. I'll be honest with you. I went in, like I said, I was very immature as an investigator, even though I've been doing it for almost 10 years at that point. And it changed me in my viewpoint on how to investigate. It changed me as an investigator. It changed me as a human being. The only thing when I go to these sites, which I'm there every week, I'm somewhere. I have, who I consider your Yeshua, or the Almighty Creator. He's my safety net. He's my protector. I really don't go in and do any kind of prayers or anything like that. I just know he's always there, and that's how I kind of go about my day, for not just the paranormal, but for anything in life. So,
majority of the cases that you go into, I just had somebody that was on with Greystone Mansion here recently on my show, talking about because he used to work there at the site, and everybody that work there have experienced something. A lot of times people, like even me growing up, I saw an old man in my house, and and it was very friendly, and I mean there was no mischief, there was no anger, no injuries. Right. So majority of the time, do you say that it's majority or most likely that way? And so how soon did you realize it wasn't as friendly as many of these other locations that you went to?
Within the first couple hours of being there, when I had the whatever attach itself to me, which I'd never had happen before. I've never felt that before. I knew something was wrong, and the three investigators who were with me knew something was wrong as well. And it's something you can't explain unless you ever had it actually happen to you, where it feels, I call it puppeting. It feels like something attaches itself to you.
Right.
You're in control, but you're not in control. It's like you're almost seeing out your own eyes, like you're viewing from a different level, and you're seeing everything that's going on. You can hear everything, but you're not responding to it. Mm-hmm. It's very strange. And I knew right then that even walking into that building, this is not right. It's one of those places where even the people, the person who led us in the building, the caretaker, was like, "Hey, make sure you guys take a break every hour or so." I'm like, yeah, whatever. And he was right, man. We literally, it got to the point where we were walking out of that building every 45 minutes just to ground ourselves, to shake it. It was so bad where, but you just wanted to keep going as an investigator. Mm-hmm. So you go back in and keep going and seeing what else, because the place is so big.
Yeah.
And you're just wanting to see every, location, and every room had its own vibe. Excuse me. Its own vibe. And it was just one of those things where you just kept going back. But I in hindsight, I'm glad I did. At the time, I probably shouldn't have. And it was just it was an investigation that I can't explain. Now, I've been to other places like that since, but nothing to that level. Mm-hmm. And I think it has a lot to do with the history of the building too. Not so much with Eric. I mean, Eric probably, when he came in and started doing his rituals and things in the building, but it was built by a 32nd degree Mason who was an architect in Cleveland at the time. So anybody knows that type of architecture, right. When they build things, they build to harness energy. So whatever energy is in that building from the 150 years, 160 years, it's staying there. I mean, layer upon layer upon layer, good, bad, in between. Right. And I think that's what you're feeling when you're in there. I can't explain it. And it's crazy because when I was in Cleveland in October for the book signing, I had 2 police officers up to me for the book signing. And that's actually their beat. These police have actually been there. And they've actually had to go in that building where they were afraid to go in the building because they got a call that someone had broken in. And they're like, "Man," he's like, "you nailed that book on the money. That you explaining that location." They said, when we get calls for that place, people are like, drawing straws if we have to go there. It's like, it's insane. So just to hear that from two police officers, and these guys, they're pretty serious guys in East Cleveland. And just to hear that from them, it was like, okay, yeah, I feel better that, I did it justice. Yeah.
Well, it's funny when you said that there was, if you're an Andy Griffith fan like I am, I used to watch the Andy Griffith show. And so there was a haunted house in one of the episodes, and Barney and Gomer had to go in, and it reminded me of that, where they were like, is there an old man in here? Nope. Okay. And they just ran out pretty much.
I think I remember that. I mean, it was a little bit before my time, but I remember seeing reruns of it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of times when you walk into a room, and I've done this, in my house or in other people's homes, you get a little chills and your hair stands up. Can you explain when you walked in, was it heavy, cold? What was the difference between, can you explain to some people? Because, people like, okay, did he just get hairs on the back of his, what was that atmosphere like?
Okay, I can tell you this. When we investigated, there was July, so it's very hot,
right.
Near Cleveland, and we got there around 3:30 in the afternoon, and we had to wait for the caretaker to let us in.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he opened that door, the side door to the garage, where you at that times when you went into the building, it pitch darkness, middle of the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It doesn't get dark at that time of year until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. The whole building that was that way. It was like it was midnight in that building. It was cold. It was damp. And there was this energy, like, where you didn't want to, like, you wanted to go around every corner, but at the same time, you're very hesitant. Like, what in the hell am I doing here? Why did I come here? It felt like, you had 1,000 eyes on you. It's like, it's like you'd be like your first day of high school or something. You're walking into the building and you're this scared freshman, and everyone's staring at you. That's what it felt like. And it was so surreal. I've not felt that feeling since, at any location, good, bad, or in between. I've never felt that again. That's the only way I can explain it. And it just you just felt on edge the whole time you were there, just on edge, like something is going to jump off and it's not going to be good. Yeah.
So the location itself is in Ohio. So, where I grew up, there was a lot of Indian burial grounds and native tribes that lived around there. And of course, in 1800s, these small towns were all around there. Being that it was a funeral home, I'm curious if you did any research of its past. Was there like any serial killer that, was buried or, embalmed at this funeral home? Was it a Indian burial ground, or did you do any research on the past location of this place?
Not beforehand, not before I went there, not until after the fact.
I'm curious to see what you found out.
Right. When I started writing the books, when I really started going down a rabbit hole, and finding out, the place, I knew it was built by this Masonic architect.
Right.
And I knew it had been a German social club, but that's all I knew really. Besides, it was the House of Wills, which was Cleveland's largest African-American funeral home for many, 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 many years, from 1945 all the way up to, I think it closed its doors in 2002 or 2003. Don't quote me on that. It was very early 2000s when it went into fraud. There was some embezzlement and things like that were going on. It got really ugly. But in between that, it had been a German social club. It was rumored to be a speakeasy at one point, but I couldn't find any evidence on that. It was a Hebrew hospital for about 3 years. It had worn many, many hats over the years before it became the funeral home in 1945. And then during that time of, as it being a funeral home, Mr. Wills had passed away in 1971. He left it to his kids. So his kids over that time period, all the way to the early 2000s, had kind of ran it down. It wasn't the place it was back when Mr. Wills owned the building. And the kids kind of died off. And one of the wives who took over the building, and she's the one who was doing like the embezzlement and doing some fraudulent things. I don't know everything she was doing, but I heard that she was taking money for funerals and not going through with the actual funerals and things of that nature, where she actually did prison time for it. She actually fled, and the U.S. Marshals caught her in Florida, brought her back, and she went on trial and went to prison for it. And like I said, this is 20 years ago now. And but as far as Native American, who knows? Cleveland, Ohio is known for its Native American heritage.
Right.
And before Cleveland was even established, I'm sure there were Native American settlements there. So yeah, I mean, that definitely could be a thing. Absolutely.
How far back have you talked to people that said that they have seen spirits or ghosts, or even, like you said, not the D word, but I mean, was there like anything in like early 1900s in the papers talking about, some type of spirits being seen at this location? Or
not that I could find in the archives, and we even went into the Cleveland archives, but I don't know if they would actually publish something like that.
Probably not.
But
back
we
then.
did find a lot of investigators that had been there since Eric had taken over the building, which was in 2011. And this is even before I even went there, and they were having similar experiences where they wouldn't go back to the building. They had things happen to them there that they can't explain. I even came across some YouTube videos of people investigating there, and some of them I've actually spoken to, and it was pretty interesting to hear that they had some of the same, that they had the same experiences that I had, and they had things follow them.
Yeah, get you a sip there.
Yeah, I'm joking here. They had things follow them home. They had unexplained attachments and things of that nature. So it's pretty wild to see that even before I was there, that things like that were happening.
Right.
And I know there had been several murders in the building when it was vacant for about 10 years. There was a couple of murders in front of the building, drive-bys and things. Because it's East Cleveland, it's an upcoming neighborhood now. But when I was there 10 years ago, it was pretty. It was bad. It was a bad area. There was a lot of drive-bys, a lot of drug dealing and things of that nature. But there have been several people, murdered on the property. There was a I don't know if it's ever been factual, but there was a rape in the building as well. So there was things that were going on there before Eric was ever in that building. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like there's been a lot of negativity that has happened in there.
A lot of dark energy.
Yeah. Let's jump into. I'm curious about this one, about the loss of the large chunk of time is being lost. I'm really curious about that. Can you walk us through that experience and how it affected, your perception of paranormal?
Are you talking about at the location or when I got home that
When
day?
you got home, because I'm curious, because I want to jump into that where they were attached to you, first of all, and I'm curious, how soon did you know it attached to you?
Well, I knew at the location something had attached to me. But
how do you know? I mean, how do you know if something
I felt like we were investigating. We were probably it just gotten dark. We were probably like on our first little leg of the investigation, and we were down in the basement area where they used to have all the viewings and like the caskets laid out for people to choose to buy a casket or whatever. And we were down there and we were doing some, an investigation, and I started feeling ill to my stomach. I'm like, man, did I eat? And it came on quick, like within a minute. I'm like, did I eat something? Like, I know it's not, I don't have the flu. It's July. And it hit me really quick. And then I started getting cold. And I mean, there's no AC in this building. So it's probably 80 degrees in there. And what really set it off was I had a flashlight, and I was shining the flashlight, and you could see my breath. And then the other investigators were like, dude, we can see your breath. I'm like, I know. I'm sitting here watching with the flashlight in front of it. And then I started getting like these cold, my arms got really cold and like goosebumps. And then I said, look, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into that, I was like, hey, I got to get out of this room. So I remember we started walking up the staircase to leads out of the basement area. And I remember stopping on the staircase. And this is on film, by the way. They were filming. And they're like, the guy Keith was filming me, and he's like, and he showed me after the fact. For about 2 minutes, I stood on the staircase and just looked straight into a wall, and I don't remember it. And then I remember kind of snapping out of it and yelling, "Get off me!" And then as that I yelled that, he on video he has a dark ball, a mass, shoot from my back and go into the side of the wall of the staircase. So then I started feeling okay after that happened. I'm like, man. So I said, I gotta get a breath. I remember going back to base camp where we had our equipment and just standing there like, man. They're like, yeah. He said, this place is crazy, isn't it? I'm like, I said, crazy? What the hell was that? Like, I've never had anything like that ever happen to me. And I kind of like, I took a breather for about 20 minutes. And I said, well, let's get back into it. And really, I didn't feel bad all night again until we lost time in the auditorium area, where like a couple hours went by and it felt like it was 15 or 20 minutes, which was surreal. And it just didn't happen to me. It happened to all four of us.
Oh, man. And
then when I got home, that same day, like I said, I fell asleep on I think, for maybe an hour or so on the couch because I was wore out from the drive. And I just remember, like, for some reason, I had this urge to go clean my gutters. I'm like,
you're like, I never do that.
I usually pay somebody to do that shit. I mean, it's a 2-story house. I remember getting the ladder out, the extension ladder, and going up on my roof and cleaning my gutters. And next thing I remember my son Beck was holding the ladder for me when I went up there. And next thing I know, I just, it's a couple hours later, and I'm sitting on the roof just staring in the cornfield across from my house. And I don't even know how much time went by. And it was, it had to been like, at least almost 2 hours. So that was the type of stuff that was happening. Like, I've never had anything like that happen to me in my entire life. Lapse of time, losing time, nothing like that. And that's, what really, like, when I came down off the ladder, and I'm like, man, what the hell? Maybe it's sleep deprivation, maybe, right. I don't know. I'm trying to find every, reasonable, explanation for it. And then that's when, over the next few days is when things start happening around my house. I started noticing them. And then my one son, Aaron, who was like maybe 2.5, 3 at the time, I could tell he was seeing things.
Oh, no.
I could see the look on his face. And that's what really broke my heart. I'm like, man, I said, I better not have brought anything home. And then next thing I know, I'm reaching out to people in the field, trying to figure out, what I have to do. And, it just went, back and forth for almost a month, maybe over a month, about 5 weeks. All this stuff was happening in my house. Yeah.
How long did it take you to tell Melanie and what happened and what was her reaction?
She had her suspicions, but she really didn't know until I wrote the book.
Really?
Yeah. She was having, my wife Melanie's very like, she kind of keeps things to herself until she has to say something. And I think she was having things happen to her around the house too.
Okay.
I remember her saying she heard, one time she heard a little girl and, laughing. We don't have a little daughter, or her daughter, which is my stepdaughter, is, older, and she's moved out. So yeah, stuff like that. But, the kids were seeing and hearing things. I was almost every hour something was happening to me, at least a couple times a day. And then that's when I really started reaching out to people to help. Like, hey, what the hell do I do to get rid of this thing? And I don't believe I brought the whole thing back with me. I think I brought like a very small part of it. And I try to explain to people what I feel like happened to me there is I feel like I brought a part of it back with me, like, almost like a tattoo almost of it, or a scar from it. Right. And I left a piece of me there. And I feel like that still to this day, like there's a piece of me there and there's a piece of it always with me. Even though I don't have things happen in my house anymore. It's been almost 10 years, even though, all my time with ghost hunters, and I've never brought anything home that I know of. Yeah.
So you said there was other people with you. You said they experienced the same thing, but did they get an attachment? And if not, why do you think it chose you?
Well, I think with Greg and Steph, they'd been there several times and had things follow them home as well. But this time, I don't believe anything followed them home. But with me, I think it's because I was new to the place. My energy was different. I was kind of the alpha. And I kind of think it latched on to me. Keith had some stuff following him. Matter of fact, it's funny because I haven't really talked to Keith in almost 5 years. And about a month ago, he sent me a video from his house and of a door. He's sitting in his kitchen. He had a Ring camera set in his living room, and he says he's still having problems in his house. There's a door just you could hear him like cut the shit, and all of a sudden this door just opens. It's like, and it's on his Ring camera in his house. I'm like, yeah. So
that would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you do you said you reached out to people. So what did you do? Because there are, like I said, I work with a lot of psychics. There's things that you can do, sage and other things to clear. And I think Stephanie also talked about prayer and sage. Yeah. So what was the ritual to get this thing out of your home, or if even least to die down?
Well, I did the whole sage thing. I noticed, I started reading into how to do it correctly and everything. Right. And I did all the different, north, east, southwest, every inch of the house. Right. And it worked for a day or two. But really, and this is me reaching out to several people, and I would try some stuff would work, some stuff wouldn't work. What really worked for me is, I gotta lie, I found God. And one night I just started praying. I was never a church going person. I'm still not. I don't practice religion. I don't actually, not to be ignorant, I don't really believe in religion. I believe in a higher power. Right. I believe in the creator. And I started praying, man, and got down on my knees, and I did that. I kept doing that for, a few days, and things started getting gradually better and better and better. And I do it to this very day, every day. That's great.
That's great. And I think, a lot of people that I've talked to about going into these homes, that a lot of people aren't prepared, not necessarily just investigators, but people that actually live in these homes. They don't know what to do, and know what to say, what rituals to do. And yeah. So has this caused a PTSD of now going into different locations? I think that would make me go, I don't know. Did it make you almost want to quit, or no?
Yeah, it did.
Really?
I actually quit about 3 months.
Wow.
I wasn't doing any investigating. I just pulled back, focused on my family and my health, and just trying to get myself better. I think being on Ghost Hunters kind of got that out of me with the PTSD thing, because some crazy locations, and I don't think I have PTSD from it anymore. There's certain times, like, if something's weird, especially in my house, if I feel something weird, it kind of goes back to that, and then I bring myself to reality, like, okay, it's not that, it's something else. And it's strange, but I know what you mean, because something like that, definitely, it's always in the back of your mind. I don't ever want to bring anything like that back home with me. But I tell people, and they're always like, hey, well, how do you do it now that's different from the way you did it back then? Right. And I said, well, back then, like I said, I think I was immature as an investigator, but now I go in as a complete observer. I don't go in taunting and asking too many questions. Right. I go in basically and I observe what's going on in the building, in the location. And I build it off of that as an investigator, instead of going in there trying to reinvent the wheel, to say. And I kind of, just you take it all that in and use it however I need to. But and today, I do a lot of investigations with the public, where they bring me out for events and stuff. So I'm always around, 30, 40 people at these events and things. So it's a little bit different than being there with 3 or 4 people, where, and I'm kind of just sitting back now. I'm like, okay, guys, go ahead and do your thing. I'm going to watch. So,
so I was really surprised in 2023 you went back. Did you go?
I did not. No.
Oh, I thought you went back. Oh, I thought it said you returned.
Yeah, in the book it does, because I was supposed to. We were supposed
because I was going to say,
yeah.
I don't know
if
I
would
want
to film a show there, and everything fell through with the production company.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah. but who knows? I mean, there were some things in the works with Netflix. They were talking about they want me to do some there and do like a 6-part series, and that kind of all this. I mean, it could still happen. Who knows? But it got put back on the back burner, and I haven't heard more about it. But it's a good thing, probably.
Whew, yeah, I was going to say I think that probably would have made me have second thoughts about going back. Just hearing your story, I'm like, because I'm pretty open about going into stuff like homes like that. But if I hear something what you experienced, I'd be like, I don't know. I think Daryl did a good job. I'll stay away. All right, so there's a lot of people that want to become, especially now, with TikTok and Instagram, and like you said, when I started, there wasn't very many people doing this, at least, especially on TV and podcasting. But there's so many people that now want to go into these locations. What advice do you give them to do it right, to investigate, and how to do the investigation correctly? I mean, tell us what your advice to these people would be.
Don't do it. No. I get asked that question a lot, for the people who've never done it before. And it's funny because like a lot of my events, there's always that 1 or 2, 3 people who've never done it. They got dragged there by their wife or their girlfriend or whoever, and they've never done anything like this. But I always tell people like me, pull back on the equipment for one thing. I see people come in with cases and cases of equipment. I'm like, guys, you don't need all that. First of all, when you first start out as an investigator, I wouldn't take anything. I would go just to a location and just feel it out. Maybe take a camera with you or an audio recorder. That's all you really need. Like these days, that's all I travel with. I have a backpack. It's literally a backpack. I carry 3 or 4 things in it. I carry a body cam, which I can just clip on, like the first responders body cam. I have a recorder and an EDI, and that's it. I have 2 recorders and an EDI. That's all I bring. I don't need $1,500 worth of equipment in a room. Yeah. So that's one thing. Sometimes less is more. And that way you can really focus on what's going on around you, because too much equipment sometimes kind of takes away from it all. First of all, too, when you go into these locations, feel them out. If it doesn't feel right when you go in there, you might not want to be there. Yeah. If you walk in that door, it's like I try to explain to people, like when you walk into a room, like say you come home when you're a kid, or you go to your friend's house and you could feel a difference in there. Like someone has been arguing or fighting or something. You could feel the energy. Right. Yeah, that's a good sign. Maybe you should not be there. Another thing is, don't take baggage with you. And what I mean by that is, and I think it's probably why some of the stuff had happened to me at the House of Wills. If you're having financial problems, you're having health problems, you're having marital problems, don't go. Just don't. Because if there's something dark at these locations, it will latch onto that and it will use it against you, and it will feed off of that dark energy, that energy you're putting out. And I try to explain that to people, and they're like, yeah, it does. Like, yeah, it does work that way. It's like anything in life. What you put out, you get back. You put out, if you're walking down the street and you're nice to people, they're going to be nice back 9 times out of 10. You're going to walk down the street and you're being an asshole, you're going to get it right back. So when you're putting that bad energy out because you got all this other stuff going on in your head, you and your wife are having problems, or you're behind in the mortgage payments, don't go. Concentrate on yourself, concentrate on your energy, and focus. And then once you get to that place where you feel good and everything's right, then you could do stuff like that. But don't put yourself in that predicament, especially with these dark locations, because it will latch onto it. All right,
Daryl, you ready for this question?
Yeah.
What was your darkness going in? Because apparently you must have been going through something.
I think mine was I wasn't focused. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. Oh. I really didn't at the time. Like I was in a dead end job, and I shouldn't say a dead end job. It was a good job, but it wasn't me.
Wasn't making you happy.
Yeah, I was doing a lot. I was working for a company, doing as like their head contractor, like kind of moving people around on the chessboard. And it was the days were rough, man. You were always getting complaints and shit. And yeah, I think mentally I just wasn't there, man. I was having a lot of problems with my one son, Nick, at the time, who was going through some, substance issues. Um, and I think, that was all the stuff that was weighing on my mind, man. And, as you know, in the book, he passed away in 2016. Before, about a year before all that happened. And I think that's where I was at, man. And yeah, that was my darkness. Yeah, I wasn't having marital issues or financial issues. It was just, I was in my headspace was not right. It really wasn't.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because it really shows people that they're like, oh, he's just saying that. But no, it's like you said, it's like going into a job interview and you're like, I ain't going to get this job. I'm not, and you're already put this negativity and energy, because energy's energy. Energy's, in a spirit and anything you do, it's all about energy. And yeah, I think, sharing that story, sometimes we don't like to share our personal. But when you're, somebody in the public eye, I think, it's important to let people know if you're going to get in this industry, you need to have a
be an open book.
You get an open book and your feet solid on the ground, and this is doing something you make happy. But before we get out, I have a feeling you have very thick skin. But before we get out of here, what do you have going on, and what do you hope listeners and viewers on our YouTube channel take away from this story that you went through with the House of Whales? And
well, I mean, the first part of the question, what I got going right now, is like I said, I'm filming a whole new show, My Haunted Manor USA. It's a really cool experience because it's someplace you can actually come and stay and be a part of the actual TV show. Because we have cameras running in this building 24/7. People can book, stay,
That's cool.
And if they have experiences, it's used on the show. And it's all part of something that happened to me last year when I was in the UK. I actually did a show over there called My Haunted Hotel, which is the same company, the My Haunted Project. And when I got back to the States, I asked, hey, do you think you can bring that same concept over to the States? And hit the ground running. And we've been doing it, for about 6 months now. So yeah, go check it out, My Haunted Manor USA, or the My Haunted Project, and you can book stays at any of our locations.
That's
we have
cool.
two in the UK and one in the United States. What I hope people get out of my experience, I hope people listening, and I know a lot of people won't. They'll just do their own thing. I get it. Yeah, we've all been there. But yeah, if you read the book, which a lot of people have, and the comments I get back about, how it's changed them and the way that, they investigate and things of that nature. And so I've had people even tell me that this should be in every paranormal investigators, they're in their collection to kind of reference, which I'm honored, because I don't feel that way about it, but I was just telling my story. I just hope they go and they don't, make the same mistakes I did, and you humble yourself, not just as an investigator, as a person. And I'm sure a lot of people are, and be reminded that, these were humans at one time, whoever we're talking to, these entities. It's a pseudoscience. We don't know. But whoever you're talking to, it's energy. It's all it is. It's human energy that's been, it has to go somewhere when this vessel dies. So, maybe that's their house or wherever you're investigating. So be mindful of that. Cut out the softball questions, What's your name? When did you die? What year is it?
Yeah.
Just be mindful. Just go in and be very, respectful of whoever's there, because you won't want someone coming into your house and, and parading around and interrogating you. So yeah, that's how I hope to get, you guys get out of it.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. And I think people can go to Daryl Marston Ghost Hunter on Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah. Perfect. Instagram. Yeah. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram. Yeah. It's all connected to my Facebook as well.
Perfect. And we appreciate you. And I appreciate you because a lot of people that don't, we've experienced stuff, but we don't get to share it, or we don't write the books. And, I think you inspire people to want to to share their stories and maybe eventually write about something that they've experienced. And so,
I am not a writer or an author by any way. I am, figuratively speaking, but I never thought I would write a book, and I just did. So.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited you did it, and
thank you.
But well, anyway, you take care of yourself, and I know you're going to be up in Northern California when to.
It's mid-September. It's the Gold State Paracon, and I can't wait. It's their first year doing it, and I'll be in I think it's Jackson, California.
Wow, that's
Don't
great.
quote me on that. It's going to be a really cool event, and I can't wait to get out there to Cal. It's been about 4 years since I've been out to California, so it'll be fun getting back out there.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you, and please come back. I hope to.
Oh yeah.
When you and like I said, hopefully we'll get you down in this area and give a good one of a lecture or something.
Out that way, yeah. I love LA. I love Burbank. All that Southern California is beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty. It's at least the weather we can all year
you got
long.
The weather.
All right, Daryl. Thank you so much, and take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we're gonna say goodbye, but we appreciate you tuning in every Friday for Truth Be Told. You guys are amazing for sharing this show, leaving comments, being part of Truth Be Told and the Club Paranormal Network. As you can see, my shirt is see-through, so sorry about that. No, I was kidding. But take care of yourself and each other, because that's all we have. And until next time, I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told.